Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're putting on our macro strategist hats to completely dismantle what you probably think Booking.com actually does. I mean, most of us just see a super simple search box for hotel rooms, right? But the reality under the hood is way more complex and, frankly, far more lucrative than you might realize. Just look at this massive figure. $186.1 billion in gross bookings for the full year of 2025. This number alone is absolute proof that we aren't just looking at some traditional travel agency here. What we're actually looking at is a staggering digital demand machine that's attached to one of the largest discretionary spending categories in the entire world. Okay, let's unpack this for a second. The absolute most accurate definition of Booking.com is an algorithmic commission machine. It's a global marketplace that aggregates deeply fragmented travel supply, think independent hotels, boutique spots, alternative accommodations, and matches that up against high-intent traveler demand. It uses these incredibly complex algorithms to decide exactly who sees what, to allocate the economic outcomes, and then extracts a highly precise transaction margin. Basically, it captures your intent, algorithmically allocates that demand, and takes its cut. To truly grasp how this engine runs, we're going to execute a 3-layer deep dive. First, we'll hit the algorithmic flywheel. Second, we'll analyze a massive monetization shift. And third, we'll explore the macro risks and expansion plans on the horizon. Let's jump right into layer 1 and see how this platform builds its immense operational gravity. So their real-time conversion loop is just relentless. It starts by acquiring global demand, then it ranks millions of property inventories. From there, it converts those bookings by aggressively lowering user friction, collects a take rate commission, and, this is the absolutely crucial part, it uses that exact conversion data to optimize the very next match. The machine is literally taking billions of real-time data points, everything from a property's cancellation policy to your specific language preference and device type, all to decide exactly which independent hotel gets your demand. And this brilliantly illustrates their moat. Notice what's missing here? Real estate. Booking doesn't own the hotels. They don't own the airplanes. Their moat is actually rooted in their highly fragmented European origins and this incredibly powerful behavioral lock-in. Look at these numbers for 2025. 4.4 million properties globally, massive direct app traffic, and a mind-blowing 1.235 billion room nights booked. That is consumer trust and habit operating at an unprecedented scale. So the real magic trick to digest here is the beautiful disconnect between the two parties. The traveler, well, they think they're simply booking a trip. They bring the intent, the budget, the dates. The hotel supplier, they think they're simply filling an empty room. But the machine, Booking's algorithm, is the invisible hand right in the middle, providing the trust, driving the conversion, and quietly monetizing the match. Moving on to layer 2, the monetization shift. This is where we need to analyze a deliberate, high-stakes pivot in how this platform actually handles capital. Now, there's a really stark contrast in their 2025 revenue mix. You've got a staggering $17.8 billion generated from the merchant model, completely overshadowing the shrinking $8.0 billion agency model, with advertising bringing up the rear at $1.2 billion. That merchant slice has been growing extremely fast, up over 25% year over year. Let's compare what that actually means on the ground. Historically, Booking relied super heavily on the agency model, and it was brilliant for asset-like growth, right? The traveler pays the hotel directly at the front desk, and Booking just collects a commission check later. Operationally, it's a breeze. But the new merchant model? That gives Booking total control. Here, they facilitate the payment up front. They capture the processing margins, they control the currency, they dictate the cancellation handling, and they own the loyalty programs lock, stock, and barrel. And they're pushing this shift incredibly aggressively by driving merchant volume from 63% of total bookings in 2024 up to 70% in 2025. They are fundamentally transforming their core identity. They are no longer just a simple reservation referral engine. They've become a heavy-duty, end-to-end transaction and payment platform. But this isn't a free lunch. Gaining all this strategic control, stuff like multi-currency support, trip packaging, flexible payments, it comes with some seriously steep operational complexities. We're talking about managing billions in cross-border fraud, chargebacks, massive customer service burdens, and incredibly complex working capital requirements. It is just a much heavier, more complicated machine to run. Let's just pause and let these financials sink in for a second, because these 2025 numbers fundamentally prove the thesis here. Out of that $186.1 billion in gross bookings, the platform extracted an average 14.5% take rate. That resulted in $26.9 billion in total revenue, which yielded a phenomenal $9.1 billion in free cash flow. And they did all of this on less than $1 billion of property and equipment intensity. It is an absolute cash-generating marvel. For our third layer, we're zooming out to the strategic horizon to weigh their connected trip upside against some very real existential macro threats. Looking at this chronologically, this evolution has been building for decades. They started back in 1996, solving for a highly fragmented European hotel market. Then the 2005 Priceline acquisition completely transformed their corporate structure. Fast forward to 2025, merchant bookings hit 70%. But look at 2026 and beyond. They are accelerating a huge push into the connected trip and AI orchestration. They basically want to connect your flights, your rides, your rooms, and your restaurants all under one single unified behavioral umbrella. However, the vulnerabilities here are glaring. First off, they are heavily dependent on Google. They spent $8.2 billion on marketing in 2025, mostly just feeding Google's search algorithms. And now they face the rise of AI travel agents that might just completely bypass their search box, totally hijacking that initial discovery phase. Add to that the strict EU Digital Markets Act, gatekeeper scrutiny, and major hotel chains aggressively pushing their own direct loyalty apps to dodge paying commissions. Furthermore, and this is critical to remember, a digital toll booth is still tethered to physical reality. The company is deeply exposed to physical world shocks. In fact, their Q1 2026 guidance and metrics clearly showed how geopolitical conflict immediately degrades global travel demand. It literally doesn't matter how good your algorithm is if the planes aren't flying. So, the key takeaway for this layer is this incredibly delicate balancing act between upside and downside. Expanding their direct app usage definitely helps them dodge Google's expensive toll, sure, but integrating lower margin flights actually dilutes their overall take rate. And while the connected trip builds powerful user habit, at the exact same time, generative AI disruptors and aggressive European regulators are actively threatening their core platform dominance. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer today, I really want you to discard the idea of this being a simple travel website. Booking.com is a global travel exchange with an advertising engine, a payments layer, and an algorithmic toll booth sitting squarely on high-intent global discretionary spending. I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. As the very nature of digital discovery shifts beneath our feet, can Booking's $9.1 billion cash flow machine keep spinning faster than the structural threads of AI discovery, Google dependence, and aggressive regulation that are all trying to tear it down? It is definitely going to be fascinating to watch. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the mechanics behind the platforms you use every day.